All right, I'm gonna hop off for I'm not gonna hop off, but I'm gonna unplug for a minute here and get ready to spend an hour with you.
Judy and Val, I see you've joined us. So if you can hear me, would you go ahead and just give us a thumbs up in the chat box or open your microphone and let us know that you can hear us? I want to do a sound check with you.
Hi, Lori. This is Judy, and yes, I can hear you.
Perfect.
I'm sort of on vacation, so I'm not video worthy at this point.
Oh, are you like sitting in a blind somewhere?
No, we're done.
Okay.
And all the meat is processed and stuff like that. I just didn't feel like dressing up today, so.
I can appreciate that. I truly can. So, and Val gave me a thumbs up, so we're good there. And I see that our speaker has arrived. So wonderful.
Hey, Marty, how are you?
I am well, Judy. How about yourself?
Doing good, doing good.
Nice to see your screen.
Yeah. I've got to figure out a picture to put up there if I'm not actually videoing in, so.
Well, Judy, I want you to know this is Sherry, and I actually fixed my hair and put on makeup. I haven't done that since Friday, since I got put in quarantine.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Getting out of those sweatpants was tough for me too.
Oh, I'm still in my sweatpants.
Well, I know, but it's a rough transition back to work attire, trust me. So if you can't tell, we've all had a little bit of COVID going around here. So
dude, knock on wood, I don't have it. None of our staff has had it. So
oh, good.
We're trying to keep it that way.
Yeah, it's been an experience for all of us for sure. So, but yeah, I'm hearing a few people start to join us. Chelsea, welcome. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up or yay.
Good afternoon.
How is it up there in the northern part of Box Butte? Well, are you in the northern part of Box Butte County or where are you located?
I'm in Alliance today, so southern. It's beautiful, but it's windy.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't checked our temperature. I went out at noon to grab a bite to eat and forgot to check. Let me see what it says. Sherry probably already has it pulled up. 74 here right now. So it's a good day. So, well, we have a record number of registrations for today. So we are going to just sit back and let them start to join us. And this is just an opportunity to talk about whatever you want. So if you have a hot topic you want to share.
We need to welcome everybody that's joining us on YouTube. If we have anybody over there on our YouTube channel.
Right, we've made our YouTube available because of the high number of registrations so that people can join us on that platform if necessary. So did everybody see the beautiful sunsets last night? Or sunset, just different locations of sunset.
Nope, we didn't go out to look. We should have.
Well, I have one from Custer County that a friend took, Judy. I'll have to share with you.
Oh, that'd be great.
Since that's your region, it's absolutely breathtaking. I shared it with the staff a little bit ago. So
nice.
It was awesome. So she lives on a farm, so you get that rural landscape and the sunset besides. So
absolutely
beautiful. I'm trying to figure out a way to get it framed and put on my wall. So hey, Cindy, I see you've joined us. So welcome. We are just
hello.
Okay, I had a little.
Oh, there she is.
There she is. Okay. Welcome, and I see Rick has joined us as well. So thanks for joining us. Looks like Cindy is home officing too.
I always home office, so this is new to me.
Oh, okay.
I had trouble finding somewhere to home office that was like not, I have a Christmas tree partially behind me. My husband carried it up. It's not decorated.
This was my Christmas present last year. We converted one of our spare bedrooms into an actual office.
Nice.
Okay.
And it was perfect, especially when COVID hit, because my husband worked from home for 14 weeks.
Hmm.
So it's nice to have an actual dedicated office that you can shut the door on, and it's not a spare bedroom. And
Good. Good.
Yeah. So Monday, my husband and I are both home on quarantine. And so Monday, he decided to chime in during our staff meeting. It was lovely. I had to kick him out of the house.
Isn't quarantine fun?
It would be better if I could taste anything.
What was so funny is I honestly swore, had I not got the chest congestion, that I just had allergies.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I tested positive, they told me once you're fever free for 24 hours, you don't have to quarantine anymore. Well, I was fever free. So it's like, okay. But my husband is presumed positive and had to quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah. So we both lost our sense of smell and taste. So they told us that we have to quarantine for, because neither one of us have run a fever through the whole thing. So they told us 10 days from the point you notice symptoms. So we're started basically last Thursday. So we're home till the Monday. We go back to work Monday.
Yeah. The day I got tested, I had a fever.
Mm.
So they counted it, but I did stay home until the 12th. I didn't go anywhere because that's what UNL recommended, was isolation until the 12th. That was 10 days. So
I see we've got Judy and Stacy who've joined us, and I'm probably missing a few. Tara and Chris, thanks for joining us as well. We are just waiting for others to join us as we approach our 2 o'clock hour. I thought I might just throw out just a thought for all of us. It's been an odd year, a strange year, an unconventional year, but I thought I might just ask, kind of along the lines of Thanksgiving being next week, ask you to share with us the good things that are in your life today. Kind of a new slant on attitude of gratitude and giving thanks, but open up your microphone or place in the chat box maybe some good things that are in your life today. We all kind of need a little boost of enthusiasm and gratitude and motivation, and just some positives to combat what we're constantly being bombarded with. So for me, one thing, or actually 5 things, are grandkids, a warm bed, a house with a roof. Just some simple good things that are in my life today. So Stacy has a grandbaby. Yes. Good. Thank you, Stacy. Adorable, I hear as well. They grow up very quickly. So tell us, what are some of the good things that are in your life today? And I'll add that to the chat box.
my puppy,
Okay.
even though he's a pain when I'm on meetings, he likes to talk. My daughter, who's a nursing student. And the fact I can work from home with no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
I went to see my grandpa at the.
Okay. I lost somebody.
I think that was Jessica, and you're muted now, Jessica. Were you telling us?
Okay. Sherry's got a grandbaby coming in May of 2021. So she's excited about that as we're trying to maybe get Jessica back. Chelsea's got lots of good things going on in the chat box. Her family, a warm home, warm shower. Amen to that. Healthy cattle and horses. Oh. Megan, welcome. I see you've joined us. So We've put in the chat box that we want people to share some of the good things that are going on in their life today, as we're welcoming all of you to join us. We try to acknowledge everybody as they join us, but as we get closer to 2 o'clock, that's just not always possible. So just know that you are recognized and indeed welcome here today. So what else does somebody have that are good things in their life today?
Man, the weather we've had this week is incredible.
Yes, I would amen that one.
I'm actually sitting here with my windows open as we speak. So
Yes.
Now, I see somebody that says John Turner, and I'm pretty sure that's not John Turner. Who do we have joining us from NIFA?
Okay.
Oh, there we go, Royce.
Megan, I am of no help with the Darius Rucker song. So somebody who maybe follows Darius Rucker may help Megan out on that one. She put it in the chat box. So we will continue to onboard here for another couple minutes, but welcome to all of you who are joining us. And we are moving closer to 2 o'clock. We have a great topic and a great speaker today. So we'll want to get going right at the top of the hour, but I know a lot of people are joining us here at the last moment. So Val, that's great news. You definitely have great news on Friday. So thank you for sharing that. That is definitely good things going on in your life today. So
I mean, there's buttons up here, but they don't work.
Oh,
to
I
turn it
think
down.
you hit FM.
okay, Deb, welcome. Jerry, I see you've joined us as well. Star, thanks for joining us. If we could, we'd move this to the outside. Get some vitamin D and fresh air.
I see our old friend Carly is on with us.
Okay, Carly, welcome.
Congratulations, Carly.
Thanks.
We are asking everybody who's joining us to just share what is maybe a good thing or good things that are going on in their life today as we get closer to our 2 o'clock hour of getting started. Randy, welcome from Hastings. I see you've joined us.
I have. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you. So Quelben, I see you as well, Royce. So sounds like everybody can hear us. I'm getting acknowledgements as we move through. So we'll give people just maybe one more minute, Sherry, and then we'll throw our slides up. Zach, welcome. Feel free to go ahead and add some of those good things that are going on in your life to the group chat as we prepare to get going. And Carly, I am so excited for you. Thanks for sharing that. That is good news indeed in your life. So well, it is 2 o'clock and we have a great topic today. So I think we will go ahead and just get our slides going here, Sherry, if you would. So thanks for participating in our kickstart of today's conversation and sharing all the good things that are going on in your life. We do have a great speaker, Marty Barnhart with MA Barnhart Enterprises, joining us today to talk about the land bank. And so we want to get started here right away with Marty. If you've got some information for me, go ahead, Sherry. To the next slide. As the year winds down, there's a few less things to report to you, but NIFA is sponsoring a virtual event with the topic of the missing middle housing on December 2nd at 1 p.m. That is a Zoom virtual event, and you can register through that link, which will be on the slides later on, or contacting NIFA. So thinking big and building small is a hot topic right now. So if you know of something that I missed, please enter that into the chat box. I've been in and out of the office the past couple weeks, and so I may have missed some very important housing related items that are going on around the state. So please know we want to acknowledge those and add them to your chat box so that others can see that as well. So, okay. Go ahead, Sherry. We just want to acknowledge too, we're kind of wrapping up our 3rd year of HomeNE, and I chose this graphic because if you hear Sharon and I and other SCED staff talk about HomeNE, we kind of liken it to tilling the soil and planting seeds, and then the tilling and the seed planting that we do eventually enables all of our communities to experience a harvest as they begin to address their own housing needs. So thank you for participating in HomeNE, and I hope that you are experiencing some success and growth from your participation. So go ahead, Sherry. Okay. I thought it might be kind of fun to take a look back. When we first started our very first webinar, we had a speaker by the name of Marty Barnhart back in February, and we didn't have a slide at that time, but the upper left map shows you the participants that participated in our March of 2018 webinar. And you can see we had good representation around the state, but then the numbers that we share there on the right-hand side show what we've happened to be able to have accomplished or had people participating in HomeNE since that first event almost 3 years ago. Back in February of 18, when Marty joined us, we had 50 registered, and today, as of about 1 o'clock, 143 people had registered for this timely topic. So, and then you can also see how our webinars have grown over the past 3 years. 137 communities would now be represented on that map if we had it noted today. So thank you for making HomeNE what it is today. So, so to those of you who are relatively new to HomeNE, thank you for checking it out. And we hope that you find it informative and become a regular participant. I forgot to mention we have 23 new people just today. So thanks for helping us to grow this network. And we also recognize that many of you regularly participate in HomeNE, and you are our support network. So whether it's your first HomeNE network webinar or one of many, we welcome you today. So today we have the pleasure of hearing from Marty Barnhart. He is a consultant and author of the Quick Start Land Bank Guide. And before I turn it over to Sharon to introduce Marty to you, I just want to direct your attention to the chat box at the bottom of your screen. We encourage you to utilize that tool and to give us an opportunity to hear from you through that chat box. Leave your comments, leave your questions, and communicate with us as we progress through our webinar today. We will be monitoring it as you respond, and we will share your comments and questions with our presenter later in the webinar. So before we begin now, I wanted to ask you, and we want to hear from you today, 2 questions, your answers to these 2 questions. First of all, we want to know what interests you about today's topic, and these will be put on in your chat box so you can respond to those. And also, what do you hope to know more about at the end of today's webinar? So if you'll go ahead and put your answers to those questions in the chat box as we progress, that would be wonderful. HomeNE is a learning network, and we do learn best when we interact and engage with each other. So please share your thoughts with us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon Heffley. She is the Executive Director here at South Central Economic Development District. Sharon?
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the November and final edition of our HomeNE 2020 webinar series. And I don't know about you, but I'm okay with wrapping things up for 2020 and getting on to a new year. Maybe something without so many crazies in it. So the South Central Economic Development District serves as the lead agent for these monthly webinars. And I kind of hate to say semi-annual gatherings because we haven't had one for a year. But but our plan is to have semi-annual gatherings. We were bummed to have to cancel our gathering last week. Our plan is to reschedule with the same focus on downtown development and upper level living in Hastings. Huge shout out to Randy Chick and company for all of the work on that end and the vendors that were prepared to have us come. And like I said, we'll let you know. If anybody can tell me the magical date for a reset so that we can avoid COVID and we can have good weather, I'm open. I'd love to hear. So a little bit more about HomeNE. It's a statewide learning network established in 2017. It's hard to believe that this webinar wraps up 3 years. HomeNE was designed with people from all across Nebraska in mind, as all of us seek to successfully address our local housing challenges. HomeNE's purpose is to build a network of individuals and communities with a shared interest in assessing and addressing housing issues in rural communities, provide a safe space to be vulnerable about what's been tried and find motivation to take another step in the right direction, learn from the successes and struggles of others, take away new ideas or see things through a new lens, and to inspire you. And in turn, we hope you inspire your tribe, because what you do in your community is valuable. No one is going to do it like you, and now is the time to leave your mark. So today, we are joined, like Lori said, by Marty Barnhart. I am very excited about that. Marty is the owner of MA Barnhart Enterprises, LLC, and he's an adjunct instructor at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. He previously served as the executive director of the Omaha Municipal Land Bank, taking it really from infancy to a well-oiled machine. He was also very instrumental in seeing legislation passed to make land banks available across Nebraska, and he is available in a consulting capacity to help those of us in rural Nebraska develop regional land banks. He is a friend and a respected advisor to SCED, and I am eager to have all of you hear from him today. So with that, Marty, welcome.
Thank you, Sharon, and thanks to each of you that are joining us today. I'm excited to be able to be with you and be able to chat with you about land banks today. I see in the chat that you're interested in learning about land banks, how to establish a land bank, and what kind of things might go into the details of making this possible. As Sharon said, my career began way back in the early 80s when I worked for Douglas County and learned all about tax foreclosure, then ran an agency called the Land Utilization Commission for the next 13 years. So 17 years at Douglas County, and then had the opportunity in 2016 to go in and begin to take over the land bank here in Omaha and move it from its infancy into a place where it ran very well. Not sure if it was well-oiled, Sharon, but nonetheless, it did run well. We had a great staff and they really made it happen. I met Sharon early on in the HomeNE network. I remember meeting with her in Lincoln, trying to find them in an office space where they were meeting in the conference room in the bank building, and then being able to have the opportunity to sit down and to share my burden and also hear the joys of housing across the state. I want to say to all of you, I'm amazed at the work you're doing. You've been doing phenomenal work, and I'm just excited to be a part of talking with you about this aspect of housing and how this might work together with you and how it might go together well. Sherry, let's move on to the next slide. I say to you, first of all, today, congratulations. Congratulations on thinking about setting up a land bank in your region. As I say at the very beginning of the Quick Start Guide, today begins a journey that will change your municipality. What began as an idea for cleaning up some vacant lots and empty houses will result in new housing, new business, increased population, and a stronger tax base in your region and in your municipality. I know it sounds incredible. Yet across the United States, land banks have been changing and transforming municipalities since the first legislation was passed way back in 2011. Our goal today is to talk briefly about each of these areas that are contained in the Quick Start Guide. Organization, all the way down through who do you call when you have questions. We'll talk about each of these areas. I'll entertain any questions as we work our way through. Lori and Sherry will field those, and if there's questions that you have that I can answer as we're moving through this, we'll take the time to do so, but we do want to try to get through this at least in an hour and not 3 hours if we can, please. Sherry? Year number one, as you set up your land bank, are going to be a lot about visiting, a lot about taking notes. Everyone from your chief administrative officer, which may be your mayor, may be the president of your city council or municipality, to the municipal board members, the treasurer, assessor, attorney, the housing developers in your area and region, and of course your nonprofits. Each of these folks has an aspect of housing that they administrate or they touch every single day. It may be taxes, it may be a plat map, it may be a foreclosure, or it may be something to do with housing. And it may be something that in turn, they can tell you that's going to give you an insight into the distressed properties that are currently either holding the area from having more housing or not allowing taxes to be collected like they want them to be done. So in that first year, you'll do a lot of what I did when I first came to Omaha in 2016 to the land bank. I've been in Omaha almost all my life. Been here since I was 12 years old, and now at a mere age of nearly, I'm young. It might be that I've been here a few years to understand the landscape here, but I also understand in Nebraska, there's something we need more than anything else. We need more people. With 1.7 million people in our state, we're thankful for lots and lots of land, 77,000 square miles. But if we could add another 10% population, it'll help our taxes to go down. If we can add that 10% to smaller communities and villages, townships, it's going to help our communities immensely for schools, for services, for just everything that goes into that community. And that first year, you'll want to talk to these folks about what's going on and take these notes. Sherry? As you set up your land bank, you may be doing so as a single municipality if you're in Omaha or Lincoln, a city of the metro or primary class, but more likely you're going to be setting this up in a multiple municipality aspect, 2 or more cities. Any number of cities can go into a land bank. As the legislation comes to law this month, you'll begin by saying, what's the name of our land bank? Are we going to call it South Central? Are we going to call it Central? Are we going to call it West? What's the name of our land bank? Who are our board members? What's their qualifications? All of that information can be drawn from, or at least helped by, the legislation that's currently there. Ours was very simple, Omaha Municipal Land Bank. Yours can be any number of things, but it should represent the region so that everybody has a hold, or if you will, a voice in what's happening there. The board members will come all from around your region, all from municipalities, both voting and non-voting board members will comprise your board. I'll show you some ways to do that. The qualifications, there are enunciated right there in the statute, and you'll see them of those 7 members. Collectively, these can be individuals from the chamber, from a nonprofit, from banking, from real estate, from areas where they serve the community at large, but they can be a collection of individuals, not one from every one of those 7 aspects. So in turn, it makes it easier, and it was an early change that we made to the legislation to make it easier for us just to find good, willing board members. Willingness usually isn't a problem. Well, sometimes it is, but generally speaking, folks want to serve, and they'll serve from 1 to 3 years as this is getting underway. Bylaws, it's already in the Quick Start Manual. I already gave you a template. Policies and procedures, I already gave you a template. You don't have to invent any of these things. I thought about it, I wrote about it, and this summer when the league came to me and said, Marty, could you help us? I said, let me put together a quick start guide of some of the things I struggled with when I came to the land bank in 2016 that I believe municipalities need today to get them off the ground. Sherry? In the Panhandle District today, these 11 counties, thanks to Michelle Coolidge and Tony, are really beginning to move forward already in forming their new land bank. They want to form it through 11 counties because places like Bayard, Nebraska have 800 homes, 400 of which are distressed. Folks, can you imagine having half your city, half your township in a distressed population kind of situation? This is what some of our Panhandle folks are dealing with today. And they want so badly to increase the housing and get this going. And they see land banking as another aspect or another way, if you will, to put this together and really help them to move this forward. Here's some of the ways they're doing so. They first are going to work in conjunction with these individual communities and their process to prioritize what properties are referred to in the Regional Oversight Board, who will then prioritize handling across the full land bank region. In other words, Use the CRA, a PRT, that is a private real estate trust, a board of health, volunteer committee, and these other areas to draw together the properties, draw together the insights, draw together the people, if you will, to be able to work with the land bank so that it's a common turf kind of a working relationship. If there's one thing I learned in Omaha, and I've learned across my 20 plus years now of working in distressed property, it's this. We should not have any kind of turf wars when it comes to housing, because we're all in the same fight. We all want the same thing. We just may see it from a different way. Maybe it's investment, maybe it's community redevelopment, maybe it's a health aspect, but every single one of us want the same thing. So working together makes us stronger. And as we can draw together all these items like they're doing there in the Panhandle, it's going to help us put together a stronger land bank that literally becomes a place that is a conduit for bringing these properties into a better place of housing and urban development. Sherry? Go ahead, Sherry. Next slide, please. It's coming. Did it not move, Sherry? All right, we might have lost her. And if we did, I can fix it if we need to, Sharon.
Well, the problem is, wait, she did have me share my screen earlier. So, because she has the power to, she holds the power to share the screen. Why didn't I think of that?
She's back. There she is.
Okay.
There we are. The next area, actually, let's come back a couple slides if you could, please. Or was that the next slide? Yeah, come back to that one, please. All right, that one, then this next one, please. In order to form your board, go to the next slide. See if she's able to. All right, here we go. In order to form the board, the legislation provides that each of the municipalities will begin to place names into a regional slate that'll move forward to begin to find a 7-member voting board. This voting core will be those who will help to oversee the land bank. There will also be an unlimited number of non-voting members that will be a part of this regional slate. Now, let me caution you right off the bat. Don't make the non-voting core so big that you can't find a room to accommodate them. And also you can't be concerned about how many may or may not be there. Of course, you don't need a quorum with the non-voting group, but they just need to bring representation to your region and what they're doing. So to begin with, these mayors, or if you will, municipal representatives, will be those who will put together the regional slate. They'll review it. They'll boil it down to 7 voting members and a group of non-voting members, send them back to the communities like Scottsbluff all the way to Terrytown. And those individual boards, municipal boards, will then sign off on the slate to form a regional land bank board. I've advocated ever since I began speaking on this 2 years ago that we begin to look at this as a regional land bank structure. Much like you have with the economic development districts, if we had 8 different land banks across the state, 9 at the most, we would then encompass Omaha and Lincoln, perhaps by themselves, and then the other land banks across the state would be regional, represented by these boards, by these municipalities, and every single one of the municipalities and townships would have the opportunity for representation, whether it be voting or non-voting. Let me speak up for a moment about the voting and non-voting members. Very obviously, a voting member has the opportunity to speak and to vote for given areas. But a non-voting member can also speak in a given public meeting. A non-voting member can also serve on all or any of the committees. A non-voting member has a voice, is what I'm trying to say. And as they have a voice, they'll be on a committee like acquisition disposition, finance, governance, perhaps even staffing. And as they work on these committees, they'll have a great voice, perhaps behind the scenes to make decisions, and then of course publicly as well, to show that they're very interested and involved in what's happening here in a particular land bank. To have a regional land bank is to have the opportunity to draw together all the resources of communities and in turn, not to go alone. What I saw in Omaha is that Omaha was able to go alone, but it was a lonely road. It would have been great to be able to bring in Washington County, Blair, and Fort Calhoun. It would have been great to bring in Sarpy County, Bellevue, Gretna, and the other communities south of us. And believe me, folks, they wanted to, but we just couldn't do it with current legislation. Now with this legislation, we can bring all that together. I don't think it'll happen that way as far as what the land bank is currently in Omaha with those other communities, but it can happen that they can serve and go forward in a way that's going to be a regional control and in turn give a broader base to these properties and a broader reaction to redevelopment. Sherry? The hope is to build an inventory. Right out of the statute are these words: problems caused by vacant, abandoned, and tax delinquent properties through the creation of new tools for municipalities to turn vacant spaces into vibrant places. That's the goal, to transform our landscape from being distressed to being something that's going to be just tremendously changed, if you will, transformed. We love that language, transformed. We used it over and over and over because we saw houses that had 3 strikes against them. My favorite was the house that's on the front cover of this Quick Start manual. It had termites, it had a condemnation order, and it was way, way too expensive for anybody to rehab. That's what I was told. And everybody said, there's no way. They're not going to get that thing done. Today, it stands at about 29th south of Leavenworth here in Omaha as a transformed home, now single family, transformed from a quadplex that had broken up into, now to a single family home worth thousands and thousands more because somebody bought it cheap. The land bank is now reaping the benefit of taxation, but more so, that neighborhood is reaping the transition and transformation of new people who live there and are making the change. Sherry? Here's your inventory types. There's 8. Tax foreclosed properties, depository agreements, tax lien certificates, code enforcement properties, condemned properties, donated properties, bank foreclosure, and purchased properties. Let me speak briefly to each one of these. Your tax foreclosure and your tax lien certificates will be the longest running properties in your inventory. Tax foreclosure takes an average of about 3 years to come into the inventory before it's actually something that could be sold. About a year of processing generally and 2 years of redemption period. And these are ones that we assisted Douglas County to do, and it may be the land bank will participate or assist a given county in moving those forward. Tax lien certificates are an investment that the land bank can make. Much like any other investor, it has twofold kind of a reaction. Number one, some of those properties are going to be redeemed. That's 14% interest for the land bank on a given year-to-year basis. Or second, there are properties that within 2 years' time are going to come into the land bank inventory and be saleable for a price far less than it would have been to purchase that property on the open market if it would have been available. So if it's not redeemed, it may come into the inventory, taking about 2 years' time to have it done. The land bank would probably do the foreclosure, but again, by cost, it's a far cheaper way than purchasing the property to invest in that tax lien certificate. A depository agreement by way of the new legislation, that is the revised legislation, is now a 1-year agreement for a nonprofit to participate with the land bank to shield a property from taxation while they tend it, while they get it ready for redevelopment and begin to push it forward. The nonprofit still holds title per se, although the land bank does take it over. And in turn, the only thing that is different is it's shielded from taxation during that 1 year's time. And then it yet is taken care of by the nonprofit for its maintenance and for its oversight. But in that 1 year's time, the nonprofit can fundraise and plan what they're going to do with it. Code enforcement properties, you know them very well. Properties that the municipality says either have to be repaired or it has to go. We had found, as I described for just a few minutes ago, that condemned properties are savable, are redeemable, if you will. And those are properties that can be brought back if the price of purchase and if the price of redevelopment makes sense. It can be done, but it's got to be done very carefully. Donated properties. You'll be amazed how many people inherit or hold a property that they no longer want. I'm sure you've seen this in your housing in your communities where somebody says, you know what, I'm just tired of this. Mom and dad had it, grandma and grandpa had this, my uncle had this. I don't want this. How could I get rid of it? And I advocate that the land bank is a great place for them to donate it. The land bank would not give them a value. The land bank would give them a tax letter that says you've donated to the land bank, no goods or services were exchanged, and in turn, you're now receiving the opportunity to go to your accountant, go to your bookkeeper, determine a value, and in turn, write it off on your taxes as you see fit. But it's a donated property. We receive many in the Omaha area. Bank foreclosed properties. There's not a lot across the state because we're a very healthy economic climate, but those that are there are those that the banks do want to get rid of because they're just something that's not good on their books. The auditors don't like it. The bank doesn't like it. And in turn, they may move them forward. And finally, purchase properties. These purchase properties may be purchased by the land bank from anywhere from $1 all the way out to a few $1,000s, depending on the property's value and depending where it comes from. Any questions here? Lori, Sherry?
We just had one question, but I think I will save it for at the conclusion.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Sherry, next slide. The database that you'll be getting together is something I advocate that may tie us all together. We used a database called eProperty Plus. eProperty Plus was designed for land banks by a company out of Virginia, and they participated in Hurricane Katrina back in the late 2000s, and in turn, put together a database from their work with the federal government that basically this database is only for land banks. It's both front-facing and back-facing, which means it can front-face to the public, giving them data and information, but it can also back-face for property data, for mapping, for reporting, everything you need to be able to put together a land bank inventory. We used it as a back-face, and I put together a front-face website to go along with it. We were one of the first land banks to do it. They thought I was crazy, and I probably was. But in turn, it worked very, very well for us. And in turn, we were able to develop a database that now is available to every community across the state and would tie us all together. It would allow you to have your own priority database. Nobody else would see it. People would only see your front face. But as they went online to South Central Regional Land Bank, they would see all the properties represented there. They could then go out and see them in North Central or in Western or in Panhandle. And they could find everything that would tie us together for reporting, but also give us a single front face pertaining to a given region and what is happening there. Next slide, please. A database is going to help you with reporting requirements. And these reporting requirements are both statutory, by virtue of reporting to the Nebraska Legislature Revenue Committee once per year, annually by December 31st, but monthly also reporting the minutes, financial transactions, and record of real estate transactions to your given municipality and your region. It's an opportunity to put together reports that aren't difficult. Once you get the flywheel turning, as Jim Collins calls it in his books, like Good to Great, you see the opportunity to begin to move this forward and in turn, help folks know what's going on. I advocate complete transparency. Let people know what you're doing, how you're doing it, the questions you're asking. Don't be afraid of it. Because in turn, the more they know that you don't know, the more they're going to be wanting to help you. And in the early days, there's a lot of questions you just don't know. So ask them out loud, and be very, very transparent with the reports and the things you're going forward with. Yes, it does show to some that we don't know everything, but it shows to others that we're willing to learn. And we want to learn about housing, about municipalities, and about moving these properties forward. Sherry?
Marty?
Yes, please.
There is one question I thought might be relevant at this point in your presentation. There's a couple, but I wanted to pose one to you. Chad wanted to know if you could start to create the database that you're talking about without having the land bank. That might help some of them justify the land bank and what would be the cost of the database or to join in with it.
I sure would, Lori. Thank you, Chad, for the question. I would begin assembling your database right as soon as you start talking to community officials. Begin to draw it together, first of all, on pad and paper, bring it over to a spreadsheet, and then begin to look at what a database might cost if it was to come into a region. But as you look at that cost, that third step will be the step that the company will help us to put this data into. In the second step, the spreadsheet, beginning to assemble those properties gives us a case for going to a municipal board. So Lori, to you, to Chad, who asked the question, I would say yes, begin assembling the inventory as soon as possible. I began with just the pad and paper right away. The first day I entered in, I began to assemble the properties that I knew were going to put them in, and I put them in categories. Those 8 categories that we were talking about earlier, I began to settle them into those categories from tax foreclosure all the way down through purchase properties. Break them into the categories and begin to make your case as to what we have out there. It's going to amaze you how many properties are there in a given township, village, municipality. It's just mind-blowing to me. Sherry? Social media. Social media today is a dual-edged sword. Notice the picture. Notice the demographic. You're noticing young people like my kids, my grandkids, and by the way, I have 5 children and 10 grandchildren. I know I don't look that old, thank you so much, but I do have that many. And in turn, my 13-year-old granddaughter, who has a cell phone, both of them, both my 13-year-old granddaughters, both with cell phones, and my kids who now look at me and say, Dad, you know, you could do this a whole lot easier. The dual-edged sword is this. It cuts very, very well for lots and lots of free advertising. Lots of ways to get out pictures, blogging, communication, ways to literally market the land bank to people who may not see it before. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, many places like that that people are looking on every single day, multiple times throughout the day. But the other side of the sword is this: be careful. Be careful what you post, how you post, and how you say it. You want to say it well. You know, if somebody says something that's against you, answer those questions as best you can, but know that people will say things socially in a social media context they may never say to you in your face. And so be very, very careful what you post and how you post, because there will be naysayers early on who will say, oh, this is just another government takeover. Why else wouldn't they call it a land bank? They're just going to take away our property. They're going to steal our property. It's just another way for fill in these blanks. Believe me, folks, I heard every single argument, and it took 3, 4, 5 different times to appear before some audiences before I made a friend. Let me give you one example. I can't tell you his name because I don't want to give that away, but I can tell you in my first meeting in one part of our community, at a community meeting, he took a video of me. And every time I came back, he was there with his video camera. And the first time I came, he was skeptical. He said all the same things I just said to you. I was there to take over. I was there from the government. I was somebody who didn't have their best interest in mind. Why wouldn't I ask them first, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By the second, third, and fourth time I spoke, he finally came up to me and said, you know, I think you really do mean what you're saying. And in the course of the 5th conversation, the 5th time I spoke there, he finally came to me and I chatted with him. And by name, he said, I really do like you. And I thought, wow, have I come a long ways. But it's going to take time because this is new. And I can tell you this, people don't like change because they don't like things that, well, it doesn't really have something they can control. So be careful. Be careful, move slowly, move forthrightly, but do move because we need this. And social media is a great way to move this forward and to help you in that. Sherry? Your staffing is something you're going to begin to talk about and think about. And I can say this to you, that as you look up at staffing and look at all the ways to staff, it's going to be some way to be able to do this in a direction that may begin with an executive director, perhaps during the first year. It may be a shared responsibility in your community. Somebody else may oversee helping to get this going. And it may grow into a property manager who also is a maintenance manager, maybe somebody who's a finance and administrative manager as well. But you may have 2 or 3 staff eventually. You may have 5. We had 9 by the time I was done at the land bank in last year in 2019. And I say done there because I stepped away in May of last year, and we built a staff of 5 who were directors. And then we had those who came in and worked with us as interns. I can tell you this, your interns from Rural Futures, your interns from other places around the state and around the country are kids who will come in and change the face for the better of your agency. They really helped us move along, and the interns were insightful and really, really helpful. But I can tell you this, don't be in a hurry. What you can do and what you can do well with a little bit of staff and a lot of people who are having their hands in it will help you to get this moving without worried about, actually having a director. Think about your cost, think about your way of paying them, and think about keeping it in line with your communities around you. It's going to be a difference all across the state. And I've been asked, how much would we pay them? You're going to have to figure that out by virtue of how much it costs for people there to be hired in a community relations kind of not a community relations, but a community development kind of role. The executive director is probably somebody who is entrepreneurial, somebody who has a real estate background perhaps, somebody who may have a good finance understanding, though they're not a finance person necessarily, but they're a person of vision, a person of understanding, a person who can work with others. But again, all those things you know about staffing already, I'm sure. Next slide. Funding. Your funding will probably break down from 3 different contribution sites. Municipal, what are you already spending by virtue of your dollars in distressed properties and your properties in condemnation, your properties in putting this together? Those contributions may be the way to look at this, or you may look at a membership much like you do with the League of Nebraska Municipalities. And as you join into the land bank on a per population basis, either way, you come in with your funds equal to the bigger cities or bigger communities. I say equal to because you're all spending a like share, but not the same amount. You hear the difference? A like share means what we might do in Norfolk is very different than we do in Loop City. And in Loop City, they may have a far less number of distressed properties, but in turn, they have a like share of their properties in their budget. So in turn, that municipal contribution might be what you're spending now or a membership in the land bank itself. Philanthropic, we have many organizations that are already looking at the Panhandle and at the other areas across the state and saying they're interested, but they don't want to go first. That's what they told me. And in turn, I believe we have philanthropy ready to go, both private philanthropy and also possibly some federal and state money that may be available by virtue of that philanthropic funding source. Private funding, individuals, banks, businesses, these private funding sources do have a very key understanding and a very great insight in housing, and they want to be a part of this. Maybe they're just waiting to be asked. And by virtue of the people that are all part of your board and the people that are helping put this together, you can begin to ask those questions. I've been in sales for a long, long time. I've taught for a long, long time. And the 2 things I've learned is, number 1, if you don't ask, you're never going to get an answer. And number 2, you have to go where the people are that know the other people. That is, get your referrals. Get the people that know the people, and either you or they approach them for these funding sources. Next slide, please. Who do you call? It is possible that during the first year, you'll be a single staff office. We were. During that first full year of my duration there at the Omaha Land Bank, it was all just me. I had a rented office space up in one of the buildings downtown Omaha, and it was just me. And from February all the way through December, I was assembling the inventory, I was putting together procedures, I was going to meetings, and that year, that's what I did. I spoke, I taught, I showed, I went to coffee, and the board said to me, Your time here is just spent getting to know people. I say this in the Land Bank Quick Start Guide, I say it here. Moving well is better than moving quickly or slowly. Just move well. Determine with your board, your funding, your workload, when to bring on staff. Talk about it openly, what you see and what you're going to do. And like I said here, we didn't add our first staff until the second year. And in that second year, I added 3 different staff members in the second year, put together a property manager first to help me assemble those properties, a marketing manager next, which you may or may not need. You can outsource that. And then from there, began to put together an admin staff also late that year. Sherry? Who do you call? Call me. I'm fully available, fully willing to be able to travel. As you can see from my shirt, I do own and run a painting company here in Omaha, but I do have time to travel. And since I own the company, I do have opportunity to get away and to come and visit your communities. I can talk with you about that, what that means. These days during COVID, we can do it virtually, or like I'm going to do when I travel out to Norfolk in early December, I'll be traveling out there, spending probably 2 days in Norfolk and having the opportunity in a larger room to socially distance, to have masks, and to teach probably for 2 full days as to how to take this manual and to begin to put it together. My goal when I come to your community is to answer questions, meet with people, and show you how to do this. And I will do so as best I can to equip you so that this journey is a journey toward new housing in Nebraska. That's my goal. I'm excited about the prospect of this and where we can go and what it can do. Sherry, Lori, back to you for questions, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have Sharon just visit with us briefly about this slide. The Quick Start manual that you've talked about is available. Sharon, do you want to give us a little bit more information here?
Yeah, this was like Marty said, Lynn Rex with the League of Nebraska Municipalities asked him to put this together. They do own it. They did a webinar. I think Marty was at October 7th, maybe,
Sure.
that League members could sign up for. And so I asked Lynn if she could make this available to our participants. So the Quick Start Guide and all of the documents are available. They're going to, for a week here, put out a link, and we'll send that to you in an email just so you can click on it. It's kind of long and I didn't want you to have to try to write it down and whatever. But so the cost is $95 plus a $5 fee using your credit card online. And you'll get a link to the recorded session. So you'll get to hear a little more information probably. It was League staff and Marty sharing. And then you'll get the Quick Start Guide and other documents. And so I'm pleased that they're making that available to our participants at the same rate they did their membership.
Okay, thank you. So let's turn it over to some Q&A with Marty right now. And we do have several questions in the chat box. Marty, the first one comes from John. He wanted to know what would be different for rural Nebraska land banks versus what was done in Douglas County.
Number one is going to be the number of properties. You may have less properties in rural Nebraska because you have more of a rural agricultural community. We didn't see many distressed properties come out of agriculture. And so in turn, you may see less properties by virtue of count and by virtue of distress. So that's the number one. Number two, you may also take longer to form this. There may be just plain skepticism, and you may need to go slower by virtue of the questions you're going to have and the things you're going to be answering as you move this forward and do this. Be cautious. Don't be in a hurry. Answer the questions forthrightly and let them know that this is a conduit. This isn't something to develop property. The land bank is designed to become a conduit for a developer, either an individual or a nonprofit, possibly even the municipality themselves, or somebody that is a part of the developmental district. But it's a conduit to move this forward. And I would say that in rural Nebraska, greater Nebraska, we're going to see this move possibly a little slower, depending on the region and depending how it's going. Let them talk to others who are moving it forward too. Don't be afraid to let them talk to the folks out in the Panhandle or somewhere else that are already beginning to move this ahead, and ask them the questions that they've been asked and get that way.
Okay, thank you. Trenton had also asked, what sort of scale is required? Could a small rural county go out alone, or would including a small city, more populated county be necessary?
I really think you ought to do this together. I don't advocate doing this by yourself because it's costly just for the overhead alone. The staffing you could keep inexpensive, but it's going to cost you money to maintain and to be able to secure the properties that come into the inventory. Maintenance alone is a costly factor. The properties need to be mowed, snow needs to be removed, and the properties need to be secured. That is, windows need to either be put plexiglass or boarding on them, and the locks need to be changed if it is, it needs standing. But it's that policing of the property that becomes expensive. And so I'd say, make sure you're going with someone rather than going this alone. Collectively, you're gonna have more properties and it's gonna move quicker by virtue of sale and of drawing this together. And collectively, I think we're stronger rather than trying to do this all by ourselves.
Okay. I apologize if I missed your answer to this question earlier, but could you talk about the cost of the database or to join? Did you address that earlier?
Yes, I sure will. The database itself, I can't give you a price off the top of my head, Lori. And the reason I can is because there is a setup fee, but it's going to be a setup fee that's going to take care of it for the entire region. Let's say, for instance, that one is put together around the Norfolk region. That region will pay an upfront fee to set it up, which will include training, database management, and all the support that comes in that cloud management. The good news is every single piece of data that I had in Omaha was in the cloud, which means that I bought $300 off-lease computers for our office, and nothing was contained on those computers. Everything we had was contained in the cloud, everything was backed up, and everything was tended to. My cost per seat on those computers was very, very low. And so in turn, your upfront cost is one thing. And then from there, it's just a matter of an annual fee, which is going to be about $2,500 per seat that might be on that. And when I say per seat, it's per member, per user, if you will. So you might have 3 users. So you got $7,500, and that's your annual fee to maintain that database. We shared our database at half price with the nonprofits in town. So they could come in, they could use it and utilize it, but they could also limit the kind of things that were being seen, but they could use it for their database as well. And it helped them to be able to have a place or a repository to map, to report, and to use, and also see what we had that was coming up.
Okay, thank you. Rick wanted to know, is housing the only use of the program, or could industrial property work as well?
Very good. Industrial property, yes, I just saw very little of it. We saw the 4 different kinds of real estate always, but some in limited numbers. The greatest portion was residential. The next portion was commercial. About 85 to 90% was residential. About 5% was commercial. That puts us at about 90 to 95%, depending on the community. 1 to 2% was industrial, and 1 to 2% was agricultural, if at all. Very rarely did I see an agricultural. Matter of fact, in Omaha, what I saw was a drainage ditch. That was basically an agricultural property. Not much agricultural there. Lots of water rights, but not much going on as far as growing was concerned. But believe me, the bottom of the Elkhorn River was something that was offered to us. And I said, why in the world would I take that? But it was agriculturally based, and I could have taken it that way. So again, Lori, to break it down, and for that question, the greatest part of your properties are going to be residential, and then commercial, a little bit of agriculture, and very little bit of industrial, although we did have one building we held for a nonprofit. We held it for St. Vincent de Paul.
Okay, we've got several messages in the chat box that we're going to work through here. How many properties do you need to make this feasible?
About 100.
Okay, that's a quick and short answer. So Jessica wanted to know, has the role of the recently passed vacant property registry been considered in regards to land banks?
It has. It's something that does weigh into it, and it's something that we worked with here in Omaha. The vacant property registry really in many ways helped us because it helped the landlords to be more aware that a property was becoming distressed. And in turn, in some ways, it showed us what landlords were not going to go back and really help their properties. There weren't very many, but we saw properties at the front end that may be coming in, and we could contact those landlords and say to them, hey, would you be willing to let this property go, either by sale or by donation, or would you like some other way to see it go down the road? And sometimes they're willing to talk to us and not always, but yes, it does coalesce with it and coordinate with it.
Okay. Just so you know, we have a good number of questions. We will probably extend beyond our 3 o'clock time today. So I want to get as many questions answered as we possibly can. And with the level of interest, we want to get those answers out to you. So Glenn wanted to know, do you think a county approach, and Drew says especially a rural county approach, is better than 2 to 3 cities?
It could be, but this is written on a municipal level. The legislation is a municipal legislation, so it may or may not work in a county type setting. It depends on your region, it depends on your area, but I would say start with your municipal area first and grow from there. We in Omaha started with the Omaha City Council, and we grew out to help the community, help the county as well. By virtue of tax foreclosure, we touched the county very directly. And in turn, we were at a place where we received in-kind services from the county rather than actual dollar funding from them. So again, start with your municipality because that's where the legislation is written.
Okay, good. Bobby wanted to know what would be the benefit of a single municipality joining a land bank instead of having their local CRA, their Community Redevelopment Authority, hold properties in need of redevelopment.
The land bank has the ability to clear the title. That's the goal of the land bank, and that's the gain of the land bank. What the land bank can do that the CRA may not be able to do is clear that title and make it ready for sale. The land bank can cancel taxes. It's like wearing the S on Superman's cape. They have the ability to cancel those taxes, clean that property, and now prepare it for resale. Whereas the CRA or the PRT or some other agency that works very well with redevelopment may not have that legislative ability, probably not, but the land bank does. So the land bank is the conduit to clean it up and get it out to the CRA so they can take it from there and move it forward.
Okay, good, thank you. What other questions do you have for Marty about land banks or the creation of land banks? The question has been asked what role development districts might be playing in helping regional land banks get set up. So
that's a great question, Lori. Sharon and I have talked about this quite a bit, and I like her insight when she says the first thing we can bring is insight. We've been doing this. We've been doing this for a long, long time, and we can bring the insights of some of the pitfalls that we've run into, gotten through, and really help. So experience, number one. Number two, you've got staffing. Staffing you may be able to share or recommend that may be able to help run this land bank. Number three, you guys have great contacts. You have contacts all across the housing landscape, both in funding and in development and in banking, and good people that you know that you're working with right now. I know Knife was on board already today listening to this, and in turn, you know these folks. And those are golden opportunities for the developmental districts to really weigh in and show your expertise. I would say one of the things I would advocate is lean heavily into you guys because you've done it well and you've done it for a long time.
Okay, Amanda has a question here for you, Marty. Do you believe that LB 840 funding could be funneled through land banks for activities approved in the language of the program?
It can't be, unfortunately not. It isn't used for that. Christy was asked that very question when we were at the Municipal League Conference. You'll hear that question being asked. And she said, no, that 840 funding is not available this way and can't be funneled that way. I don't believe there's a legal opportunity to do so. There could be a change or a nuance to that, but I'm not aware that we can use that at this juncture.
Okay, thank you. What other questions do you have for Marty at this time? And as you're thinking about questions, maybe you'd like to share what's an aha moment for some of you. What did Marty say today that really spoke to you? I do have a question from Dawson as people are thinking about their aha moment. what municipal funds could be used for the land bank then?
Well, you'd use the condemnation funds, the code enforcement funds, maybe funds that you're using to make that department move forward. If you've got $1, $3, or $5,000 you're spending already in a given year, instead of funding those and having those go forward, perhaps that funding could be moved toward the land bank. That's your shared cost kind of spending, where it's not equal to another community by virtue of its size of dollars, but it's a shared commitment to say, we're going to bring the funding that we're already doing in enforcement, in code enforcement, condemnation, et cetera, and we're going to move those toward the land bank to help move this forward.
Okay. Thank you, Marty. So what is your aha moment as you've all listened today? This has been a presentation with a great amount of interest. People have remained on. We maxed out our Zoom room, plus we had people watching on YouTube. So it's definitely a topic of great interest across rural Nebraska. Lauren says it's truly a collaboration effort. That is definitely a true statement.
I agree.
Any other questions or thoughts for Marty? Well, Marty, Rick, yes, slides will be sent out to everybody. Sherry, if you can hear me, do you want to give us an update on when things will be going out?
Actually, these slides will be in your mailbox. It's set to go out at 3 p.m. The link for the $95 and everything through the league is there as well. All you'll have to do is click on it and it will take you to their website to be able to download those. They are only available for review through the 25th is my understanding.
Right. Drew does have a question, Marty, if you have another few moments. What advice do you have for housing developers to collaborate with emerging land banks?
I would say, first of all, look at the inventory that you might see develop in the land bank and determine if it's something that could be used by your housing developing organization. Second, discuss with them their procedures. How are they going to go about selling these? What's going to be their way of bringing these to market? Will they be holding them for a certain period of time? Will they be cleaning them up? Find out their whole procedural method. I advocate that the land bank get it in, get it clean, get it ready, get it out. In other words, if you can turn a land bank property in 30, 60, or 90 days, it helps everybody. Because the land bank wins by virtue of less maintenance. The community wins by development happening right away and getting going. So find out what they're doing, and then from there, determine whether the property is something you purchase now or something you go to the board and say, do you have an option available? Could we make an option where we could actually put money down and hold it and you sell it to us at a future date when we're ready to it? The board can do whatever they want. And there's an option kind of clause built into the statute. Maybe you didn't know that, but it's there. And you can sell properties that way, a deed in kind of a service, where it could be held for a developer maybe a year from now. I don't always advocate it that way, you know, talk about maintenance, et cetera, but it's some way for a developer not to have the carrying costs long-term, or at least to participate in those costs to make it go.
Okay, well, Marty, we've appreciated the information you've shared with us this afternoon. And I know you've mentioned your contact information, but would you mind giving us that again? I know you've expressed an interest in traveling throughout Nebraska to meet with communities and organizations. Can you give us your contact information and just share anything else about your willingness?
I sure will. Sherry will have that as a part of the slides, but also give it to you. My phone number is 402-917-0486. That is my cell phone. You will reach me directly. And if you want to text me to make sure it goes right on through, that may be an easier way to reach me. I'll get back to you within 24 hours and chat with you about your concerns, your questions, etc. Email wise, MRT Barnhart, MRT BARNHART @gmail.com. So mrtbarnhart@gmail.com, as you can see there in the chat.
Yes, Sherry has added that to the chat. So,
She's so good.
Well, Thank you so much again, Marty. And as we begin to wrap up today, I wanted to just draw our attendees' eyes to our website where you can view other past webinars. We always maintain those, and you can go back and visit past webinar topics at any time and review those. Sherry told me today we've had over 1,000 different views of topics that we have presented in the past 2 to 3 years. And so people are using that as a resource to go back and refresh and renew their information on different topics that HomeNE has presented. So Marty, you're going to be a star on that webinar list, I've got a feeling, with all the information you've shared with us today. So, so thank you for participating. So just to wrap up, next month we do take off. That is our custom here at SCED. We take the month of December off, and so there will not be a webinar in December. So in January 21st of 2021, and that doesn't even seem possible, will be our next time to gather together here. We are not ready to announce a topic or a speaker today about that, but we are working hard to bring another great lineup of speakers in the new year to all of you. So thank you so much, Marty. Again, we greatly appreciate it, and feel free to come back and visit with us anytime. Okay.
I will, Lori. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Sharon and Sherry, for all the work you guys are doing behind the scenes in each one of your developmental districts.
Thank you very much. Are there any last questions or comments from our group today?
Hey, I just want to say we are looking for stories to feature next year. So if you have something in mind, let us know. Shoot us an email and give us the contact of who we need to talk to, because you guys are out there. It doesn't have to be in Nebraska. We're glad to go out of state. We've done that before. We think we have a lot to learn from others. So if you would draw our attention to those success stories out there, we would really appreciate it.
Pipestone, Minnesota is a perfect example. That's been well reviewed since it was earlier this year when we presented that one. So thank you again to all of you. Thank you to Sharon for helping today, and happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas to all of you. We'll see you back here in January.